today we are talking about two specific types of exponents. 7.1 is the zero exponent and the negative exponent. All right, so we're going to start with the zero exponent first. I'm going to actually give you the rule. The zero exponent. If I have x raised to the 0 power, it equals 1.
So this one's like the simplest one.
Now, there are 3 different instances on what happens with this, so I want to talk about that. Remember that your exponent applies to what's directly in front of it. So we have 3 different examples of what could happen. If I have... No, not really. These are just little examples of what could happen with the zero exponent. Okay? Let's say I have, let's go 3x to the 0. We're going to go negative x to the 0. And let's go 3x to the 0. So we have 3 different instances there. There we go. All right. The first one is 3. This 0 only applies to the x. The x is what becomes 1, so our answer is 3. In the second one, the 0 only applies to the x. So the x to the 0 is 1, but I still have a negative, so this is negative 1. Correct. The last one is 1 because it applies to the whole group. Exactly. Oh, now do you know why you have 17 problems to do? All right. So, do we have any question regarding that rule? Okay. Let's go to the next rule we're going to talk about today. No. The negative exponent. Negative exponent, the rule is actually written this way. If I have x to the negative n, whatever that number is, if your exponent is negative, it moves it to the bottom of your fraction. So he's not happy where he is. We're going to move the x to the bottom, and the n becomes positive. Now he is happy. Okay, he starts off negative. When you move him to the bottom of your fraction, he becomes positive. Same thing saying if he starts on the bottom with a negative exponent, he's good. Well, I don't know what that was. Sorry, guys. We'll try that again. 1 over x to the negative n. He's not happy there. He's going to move to the top, and this becomes x to the positive n. Okay? So anytime we have a negative exponent, that's what's happening. It's just moving to a different floor of the fraction and becomes positive. Okay. So that being said, example number 1. In the first section in your homework, which is problems 10 through 20. I know. We spent a lot of time on the word problems that chapter. All right, 10 through 20, I'm going to ask you to simplify. In these problems, you are only doing one of the rules. Okay? So in this first section, it's just one rule. So let's say I have, how about 5 to the negative 3? Since it's a negative exponent, we're going to move that to the bottom, which is 5 to the positive 3. And what's left behind on top? Just a positive 1. There's always a 1 left behind, because technically this is 1 times 5 to the negative 3, right? Yeah. So 5 to the negative 3 moves to the bottom. That magical 1 is always there. Always there. Now we simplify this. This is 1 over 5 times 5, which is 25, times 5. Yes. Good. 125. All right. What if I have negative 6 to the 0 power? Very good, Seth. Negative 1. The 0 only applies to the 6. Okay. What about this one? What if I have negative 2 to the negative 3? Good. Negative 1 on top. 2 to the third goes to the bottom. 2 to the negative 3, when it moves to the bottom, it becomes positive. So this negative had to stay behind, right? Now to simplify this, I have negative 1 over 2 times 2 times 2, or 8. All right, how about this last one in this little section? How about if I have 1 over, in parentheses, negative 5 to the negative 2. So the negative exponent's got to move him so it becomes positive, right? He's not happy where he is. He's got to move, so he's going to move to the top. This whole group moves to the top, and the exponent becomes positive. So then what's negative 5 times negative 5? 25. Positive, because it's all a group, right? Okay. Any questions on this first section? Okay. Example number 2 then. The second section, example number 2. This is going to be problems 22 through 36. Yep, and we're going to simplify. Now we're going to be adding more than one rule at a time. I highly recommend the order that I wrote your rules down is the order you should do them in. So first thing you should do, if you have anything raised to the 0 power, you simplify that first. Okay? Then you do your negative exponent. So what I mean by that is, let's say I have x to the negative 3, y to the 0. Okay? So, yep, y to the 0 becomes 1. So I can cross that out. Now it's 1 times x to the negative 3. So now where does my x to the negative 3 go? In the basement, to the bottom. And what happens to my exponent when it goes down? It becomes positive, yes. So this becomes 1 over x to the third. All right, what if I have 3x to the 0, y to the negative 2? Let's do that one. Again, we start with our 0 power. What does that 0 power apply to? The whole group. Yes, this whole group becomes 1. All right, so now I have 1, and then what do I do with y to the negative 2? Move to the basement. So I get 1 over y squared. Exactly, it becomes positive. Any questions so far? How are we doing? Okay, we're doing great? Okay. All right, how about one like this? What if I have 3 a to the negative 4 over b to the negative 2? I know. So we're going to start at the beginning. Does the 3 have an exponent on it? It does or it doesn't? No. So it's going to stay. Nothing happens to him, right? Let's move to the next one. We have a to the negative 4. Where should that go? To the basement, and what happens to the exponent? Becomes positive 4, right? On the bottom, we have b to the negative 2. Where does that go? To the top, and what happens to that exponent? Becomes positive. Oops, becomes positive. What am I doing? So it'd be b squared, exactly. And that's all there is, right? All you have to do is move them. If you have to simplify them, if it's a number, fine. But you just move the negative exponent. Sure, let's do example 3. And it's still going to be part of the same section, but I got to make them a little bit tougher. Okay, because there are a couple harder ones in this same section. All right, so it still says simplify. All right, let's up the ante a little bit. Let's do, how about 2 to the negative 3, a to the 0, b to the second, over the negative 3. All right. What do I tell you to start with? The 0 exponent. What does the 0 exponent apply to? Just the a, right? Right here. So this becomes 1, which is really times 1, so it just disappears, right? All right, so now we're going to go back to the beginning. We're going to start with this one. Tell me about the 2 to the negative 3. Where should that go? To the bottom. What happens to my exponent? Okay. B squared. What happens with him? He stays, right? He's already good. He's positive. He's happy. So B squared stays. We have C to the negative 3 on the bottom. Where does that have to go? Good. So C becomes a positive 3. Now tell me, what do we need to simplify in this problem? 2 to the third, exactly. So on top we have B squared, C to the third. On the bottom, this is 2 times 2 times 2, or? Very good. All right, one more in this section and we'll move on. How about 7, S to the 0, T to the negative 3 over V squared W to the negative 1. That looks like fun. Yes, I agree with Seth. First one we're going to solve is to the 0 power. So this right here becomes 1, so it's gone. All right. So we're going to go over here. Tell me about the 7. 7 stays. Okay. Uh-huh. Good. T to the negative 3 goes to the basement. Well, what about V squared? Stays on the bottom. V squared stays on the bottom. W to the negative 1 is going to move to the top. And do you have to write the positive 1 there? You don't have to. You can if you want to. But remember, 1 is always magical and it always hangs out. One of the things I want to point out is, can anybody tell me, why did I write them in this order on the bottom?
Alphabetical.
Very good. Alphabetical. Is it wrong if it's not? It's not technically wrong, but it is better if it is. Okay. Yeah, the math gods like it if it's in alphabetical order. All right. I want to talk about the last section. The very last section you have in your homework, it says to evaluate the expression. When you evaluate the expression, and again, you have to trust me on this. I've been doing this a really long time. Here's what I suggest you do. Step 1, simplify first. Simplify the expression you have first. Okay? Step 2, you're going to plug in values. I'm going to remind you using parentheses, right? Anytime you sub a value in for a variable, you use parentheses. And then 3, you can calculate it. All right, so this is example number 4, right? Example 4 is going to cover our problems 38 to 44. And that is the end of them, yes. It says evaluate for x equals negative 2 and y equals 3. And maybe your expression looks like this. Say we have 2, x to the 0, y to the negative 2. So first we start by getting rid of the x to the 0 power, right? If we simplify that, that becomes 1 and it's gone. What else has to move? Yeah, so we're going to have 2 on top and y to the what exponent on the bottom? Good, positive 2. Now that it's simplified, now we can plug in our value. Yeah, there is no x anymore, right? After we simplified it, we got rid of that one. So all we have is 2 over 3 squared. So now we calculate it. 2 over, what's 3 squared? 9. Perfect.
That wasn't too difficult.
No. But again, it's a lot easier if you simplify it first. So let's say, let's stick with those same values. Let's say I have 3 x to the negative 2 y to the third over let's go y to the negative 1. All right. So let's see if we can't simplify this first.
So the x squared goes, or x negative 2 goes to the nation.
Good.
The y negative 1 goes to the top.
So,
Three stays on top.
yep, I have y to the third, and I have y to the first, right?
So y to the third.
So now we can plug our values in. I have 3 times 3 to the third times by 3 over negative 2 squared. On the top, how many 3's are all multiplying together? It's a lot of 3's. How many are there? There's 3 here. It's only 5. This one right here is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So there's 5 of them, right? So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And that's what, 243? Thank you. 243 over, what's negative 2 to the second in parentheses? It is positive 4, and you're done. Okay? So again, those last 4 problems, please simplify them first. A lot of times things get a lot easier once they're gone. All right, so you have a lot of time, 20 minutes, actually 19 minutes to work on this. Again, you only have 17 problems to do. If you have any questions, I am here to assist however I can.